tonight on KTN Prime.
Tukianza kazi, ati sasa huyu ameanza kusema fulani amewachwa fulani. Hiyo siasa ya pesa nani jamani tuache. Inasaidia nani?
The politics behind the standard gauge railway line.
That position has been reviewed to 262,500.
All our assemblies will not resume back.
Will it ever end? Members of the county assembly reject latest pay rise. Shock as man wipes out his family in Thika. And it's a happy moment for football fans, a photo opportunity with world's most precious soccer trophy.
This is KTN Prime with Lindah Oguttu and Ben Kitili.
It is a warm Thursday night here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Good evening from the Standard Group Center. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime.
Indeed, we have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you. We begin at the coast. President Uhuru Kenyatta officially commissioned Kenya's first standard gauge railway in Mombasa with the promise that it will transform the course of development.
There was double-speak from coastal leaders who had rejected the project, but today they turned up to express solidarity with the president. Shall be having that story later on in this live newscast. In other news, the Speakers Forum for the County Assemblies has rejected the new salary scales released by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
The Speakers maintain the plenary sessions for county assemblies will remain suspended until the salary dispute is resolved.
The Commission proposed a new minimum gross salary of 123,700 shillings for members of county assemblies from the current 79,200 shillings.
Well, the members of the county assemblies are asking for a monthly salary of 275,500 shillings each.
We had a meeting with National Treasury, who informed us that it was not possible for them to accommodate any changes in this financial year. We had to move to discuss with the governors, who have allowed that we implement the same, but they will try and accommodate the adjustment within their current financial projections.
Just as the previous evaluation purportedly done by SRC was a sham, we would also want to treat this one as a sham.
As it is now, all our assemblies will not resume back. As it is now, we are not going to go back because we don't believe in what has been provided by the SRC through the Senate.
It is very clear that Senate has become an extension of SRC. They have joined in the bandwagon to suppress and demean the work of county assemblies.
If you go to my Twitter account, there are thousands of Kenyans who are accusing the Senate of siding with MCAs at the expense of the people of Kenya. But as leaders also, we must be able to carry all that burden.
Let's put those numbers into perspective now. Let's compare the former salaries that the members of county assemblies and their speakers were receiving and the new ones. The county speaker used to get 225,000 shillings per month. That is the previous offer by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which was also rejected. The new offer by the SARA-SEREM Commission is 350,000 shillings per month. And for the Deputy County Assembly Speaker, 79,000 shillings, 200. That is the old offer. The new offer by the SARA-SEREM Commission is 240,000 shillings. And for the MCA, they used to earn 79,000 shillings, 200. The new offer was 165,000 shillings. There are also other benefits apart from that monthly pay. Let's now take a look at what other benefits they have. This county speakers The MCA has a mileage allowance of 39,528 shillings, sitting allowance for the County Assembly Speaker 208,000 shillings per month, and for the MCA 124,800 shillings. Airtime for the County Speaker 10,000 shillings per month, and for the MCA is 5,000 shillings. There are also mortgage proposals. For the County Speaker is 3 million, which of course is renewable after 5 years, and for the MCA 3 million shillings. Kalon for the County Speaker 2 million shillings, and for the MCA is 2 million shillings. Now total per month what the County Speaker is getting after that new proposal by the Sarah Serem Commission is 568,000 shillings per month for the County Speaker, and for the MCA is 334,328 shillings. Sarah Serem and her commission also sought to put together what that new pay and the old one would, what dent it would put on the public coffers. The old offer was going to cost 2.19 billion shillings per year, and the new offer was going to cost the taxpayer 3.4 billion shillings per year. That is what the MCAs say is not enough.
The Big Q in association with Kenya Power.
So we have a new offer. The members of the County Assembly are not taking it. We seem to be headed for another tussle. 3
billion shillings, Linda, they said that is not enough.
Not willing to take it. So the battle between members of the County Assembly and, of course, the Salary and Remuneration Commission forms the basis of our big question tonight on KTN Prime. And we are asking you, will the SRC ever resolve its salary war with MCAs? Send us a yes or no response, of course, together with a short opinion to the number 2215. Of course, you can tweet us as well.
You can tweet us at Ben_Kitili, at Lindah Oguttu, as well as at KTN Kenya.
Right at your fingertips. Dial *551# Kenya Power.
Right, police are investigating circumstances surrounding today's shocking killings in Thika, where an ex-convict butchered 3 of his family members before hanging himself. Another member of the family who had been lured by the assailant from Thika town narrowly escaped death. Patrick Amimo has the details of this harrowing story.
Residents converged at a house in Makongeni Estate, Thika town, after learning of the shocking turn of events. Neighbors discussed in hushed tones, trying to understand what may have triggered the butcher of an entire family by one Leonard Mwangi. Mwangi butchered his estranged wife, her 1.5-year-old daughter, and her 17-year-old niece.
Mama amedungwa visu mingi kwa kifua. Msichana akascream. After screaming, alilashiwa na akamkata shingo.
It is said that the family had moved into the Makongeni house 2 months ago. After killing the 3, the assailant is said to have gone to Thika town and lured another family member. He is alleged to have treated her to a meal at a hotel before proceeding to the house, where he promised that he had a surprise for her.
Afanya shopping without knowing what she has done to their mother and the family. Hapo akakuja kwa nyumba akamvuga macho, ambia ukisema bia nimetenda hata mimi nitakuua. So the girl complied, and that's why she is alive up now.
She was lucky to have escaped death in the incident that has puzzled neighbors. The killer spent the night with the dead bodies in the house before hanging himself.
Nilifungua nikapata mama ameuawa, nimefungwa na kaba nyuma. Mzee amejihang kwa kitanda, na kulikuwa na katoto kama miaka 1.5 pia kamekatwa kichwa.
Sasa alipotiwa kwa polisi kwa sababu alitoka he was ex-committee na alitoka last year na hagetaka kurudi kwa committee kwa sababu aliteseka sana.
Area Police Commander Paul Leting said reliable information showed that the assailant, Leonard Mwangi Karama, was an ex-committee convict. He said the man had earlier been convicted by a Nairobi court. Police are now investigating the circumstances of his release from jail. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto will not have to be physically present at the ongoing trials at the International Criminal Court.
Well, this development coming in late last evening after the Assembly of State Parties approved 2 key proposals to amend sections of the Rome Statute that will have direct implications on their ongoing cases. Take a look.
After After a week of intense diplomatic lobbying, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto can now breathe easy. Through an adopted amendment to the International Criminal Court's rules of procedure, the two can now perform their state duties even as their trials continue at The Hague. The amendment to Article 134 cut them loose from physically attending their hearings, the first and perhaps most significant victory for the two leaders against the Hague-based court.
All that we came to achieve at this assembly of state parties, we have achieved. Everything that we sought to achieve, we have achieved.
But this is just a small concession for the Kenyan delegation who have their eye on a bigger prize. The plan was and still is to get both the president and his deputy not only excused, but also get immunity from prosecution. As it stands, Kenya has submitted notice for a special sitting at the ASP to consider this proposal as tabled by the African Union.
We have also been able to notify the Secretary General of our intention to amend Article 27 of the statute. That can only be done at the next session of the Assembly of State Parties.
All rise, vive vous lever.
What will also wait is the implementation of Rule 68. State parties adopted an amendment that now allows previously recorded statements from witnesses to be presented as evidence. The Kenyan delegation, who were vehemently opposed to this amendment, were forced to play ball, although a caveat was later introduced that will see ongoing cases unaffected by this rule. The decisions from Tuesday evening will significantly alter the backdrop of the cases. The president and his deputy can, for starters, apply afresh to be excused from trial pursuant to the amendment. But the delegation has made it clear it is still playing for gold and hope the two will not have to go through trial altogether. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Let's stay with that story. And a short while ago, I spoke to the president of the Assembly of State Parties, Tina Intelman, via Skype, and I began by asking her what this latest decision would mean for the Kenyan cases.
We do not want to do the job of the judges, and the court is an independent judicial institution. So what will happen now is it is absolutely up to the judges to interpret these rules of procedure and to see how they will apply to ongoing cases and also specifically the Kenyan cases.
All right, so let's still look at the resolutions that were arrived by the Assembly of State Parties. And then there is the concern. Is this a sign then, ma'am, that state parties are politicizing a legal process? Because the men who are suspects at the International Criminal Court, by the time these cases are coming through, they were ordinary Kenyans. But right now, one is a president, one is a deputy president. Then you have the scenario of the African Union getting involved. Do you see a scenario where state parties are now politicizing what is essentially supposed to be a legal process?
Well, according to the Rome Statute and the Rome Statute system, the amendments to the rules of procedure of the court are also in the competence of states parties. What states decided to do right now is to look at the current situation where important elected high officials are due to appear before the court, and how to create the possibility for these people also to carry out their state functions.
I know you have said that everything now remains at the discretion of the court. Question is there any particular moment at which the suspects will be required to be present at the court, even after these resolutions have been passed?
I am not in a position to say so. It is up to the judges to interpret these rules.
These amendments come, of course, just a few days after the appeals chamber said that President Uhuru Kenyatta will have to be present for his trial at the International Criminal Court. You now have the state parties meeting and saying, he really doesn't have to be there. He can be represented by his legal team. Is this, in a way, a rebuke of the judges and indeed the court? Is it sending a message that they have to be aware of the political and geopolitical issues on the ground when they're coming up with such decisions?
What I think we have seen over the past months is that the court itself through its decisions, has been looking for flexibilities, trying to take into account the present circumstances. And the court has on several occasions said that the two accused should not be present at all times. On the contrary, they could be excused if they so requested. So now what the Assembly has said, I think the Assembly has further given to the court an indication of its flexibility in the rules. Again, how this will play out in the future, because we are not speaking about two persons here. These rules will apply to everybody. These are general rules that now the judge will be applying to concrete cases.
Madam President, let's now focus on the legality of the resolutions. And in saying so, I'm focusing on the issues that have been raised by the legal representatives for victims, that is Fergal Gaynor. And he said that any decision that the Assembly of State Parties takes must be consistent with the Rome Statute. Otherwise, the judges of the International Criminal Court can declare it null and void if found to be inconsistent with the Rome Statute. According to Gaynor, Article 63, subsection 1 of the statute imposes an obligation on the accused to be present in the courtroom for the duration of the trial. Article 27, subsection 1 requires that all provisions of the statute, including Article 63, subsection 1, obligation to be present at the trial, be applied to all accused without distinction based on official capacity. Are there chances, Madam President, that the judges of the ICC can declare the resolutions null and void?
Well, I am confident that we have very good lawyers sitting in the Assembly of States Parties. We have 122 states, and all of them were represented by outstanding lawyers who have been with their own statute and negotiations also earlier and have attended Assembly meetings. So I am in the hands of states parties. So I trust that what the decision that was made based on the collective wisdom.
Are you now worried that this sets a precedent for state parties, that any time a state party will be uncomfortable with any provision of the court, they will seek to amend it in future?
Well, we have been amending the rules previously over the past years in consultation with the court, with the judges. And this was exactly also the case this time when we were negotiating amendments to the rules of procedure. That was done also in consultation with the judges of the ICC.
President of the ASP, the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute, Tina Entelman, spoke to Lindah a short while ago. Let's now bring in Maurice Mbondenyi, the Dean School of Law at the African Nazarene University, and I'll ask you the first question Lindah asked the President of the ASP. What does that ruling, adopting that, amending Rule 134 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, mean for the cases against Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto legally?
Well, Ben, when you look at that particular amendment, you would actually see the sense where the Assembly of State Parties is actually coming up with a new playing ground, whereby if somebody has official status, then they will be immune to attending all the court proceedings. I think that is the implication, first and foremost, of Rule 134 and the amendment thereto. But when you read the rule deeply, and when you consider the implications, then in light of the ICC statute, you'd find that the rule now brings in more implications, which will be subject then to the interpretation of the ICC court. I want to point a very important point here. What the Assembly of State Parties is actually is equivalent to Parliament of a country. So the Assemblies of State Parties is just the political wing of the entire ICC mechanism. But whatever they pass shall actually be subject to interpretation by the court, the ICC itself.
Are there any dangers of anybody in Kenya going to court to challenge that particular decision?
Well, locally, there is no such a possibility because the ICC is actually a separate mechanism from the local mechanisms. The only thing that comes in is now the rule of complementarity, where, of course, there must be some complementarity between the national jurisdiction and the international jurisdiction. So somebody cannot actually go to the Kenyan courts, and challenge the decision of the assemblies of state parties. But in future, somebody could actually, and I guess the prosecution could actually, at some point, challenge that rule within the chambers of the ICC.
What does that ruling mean politically for Ruto and Uhuru?
Politically, that gives them the room and leeway to be able to attend to their constitutional obligation. We know very well that they have got a lot to do since they are duly elected the president and the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. So that gives them the leeway. You can remember that it was a little bit difficult for His Excellency William Ruto to shuttle between The Hague and Nairobi. Perhaps now this amendment to the rule gives him now the leeway to be able to attend to matters in a better way from Kenya than from the two countries.
Yes, now the case against William Ruto and Joshua Arap Sang is enjoined. The Rome Statute says that there should be no disparity when dealing with matters at the ICC. What does this leave Joshua Arap Sang?
You see, Ben, to be honest, that is where I fault the amendment that was imposed by the Assembly of State Parties, the Article 134 amendment. When you read that amendment in conjunction with Article 27 of the ICC statute, you'll find a disparity. Article 27 is categorical that one's official status does not bar them or grant them immunity from prosecution. And you'll find Article 27, Sub-Article 2, going further to say that the court will not have regard to any form of immunity, whether it is substantive immunity or procedural immunity. Article 134, according to my own interpretation, now brings in what we call limited procedural immunity, whereby an accused person would not really have to attend to court sessions in full. Not only that, when you read that article and you read Article 63 of the Rome Statute, Article 63 sub-Article 1 is categorical that an accused person shall attend court in person.
Yeah.
And that is very clear. An accused person shall attend court in person. What Article 134 is purporting to do is to vary Article 63 of the Rome Statute.
Yes.
And Article 51 of the Rome Statute is categorical that where there is a conflict between the rules of procedure and the Rome Statute, then it is the statute of the provisions of the statute that would prevail.
Yes. Finally, Dean, very quickly, Kenya is still pushing for full immunity against for President Uhuru Kenyatta and for sitting heads of government and state and their deputies. How do you see this going?
Well, it actually calls for the complete understanding of international politics. I think the mood at the moment among most of the big brothers, so to speak, of international justice is to the effect that ICC is there to prosecute and, if possible, punish those who are most responsible for atrocity crimes, the crimes that are clearly stipulated in the ICC and the Rome Statute. The intention is to punish those who are most responsible. And when the ICC mechanism was being put in place, people knew from the onset that those who are most responsible for atrocity crimes are either heads of state or people who hold key positions within a state or within the state machinery. So it would be ironical now for ICC, the Assembly of State Parties, to allow such an amendment, knowing very well that the mechanism was put in place to be able to deal with matters that cannot be effectively dealt with at the national level. So to me, I see really on that we may hit a snag.
Thank you, Dean. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot.
Maurice Mbondenyi, the Dean, Faculty of Law at the African Nazarene University. Sticking out to our top story, and President Uhuru Kenyatta officially commissioned Kenya's first standard gauge railway in Mombasa with the promise that it will transform the course of development. There was doublespeak from coastal leaders who had rejected the project, but today they turned up to express solidarity with the president. Our senior coast reporter Ferdinand Omondi followed the politics behind the new railway line and now reports.
Uhuru Kenyatta arrived in Mombasa to launch a project that is expected to revolutionize transport across 4 East African countries. Present with him were government representatives of Uganda, Kampala, and South Sudan and China. Also in tow were local politicians, some of whom a day earlier had joined the Dock Workers Union in calling for the launch to be halted.
Hii mambo ya groundbreaking ceremony isimamishwe na isitishwe.
And we cannot have a situation whereby we have dictatorial policies to say that this is the person that we need to give this business to.
Kazi hii ambayo inataka kufanywa na Mheshimiwa Rais haiendi katika hali ya uwazi.
On this day, all 3 attended the event. Not just that, the host MP was demanding some goodies.
Project zote zilizoko hapo pwani sisi viongozi pia tuhusishwe. Ungenipa mimi fursa pia vile ningeleta wavuvi waone hapa ili na wao wasikie kuwa hii ni sehemu yao na talanta zao zimepewa nafasi zikaonekaniwa Kenya nzima.
Among the grievances they had raised was suspicions that the project, estimated to cost 223 billion shillings, was inflated. The MPs and dock workers had also accused Kenya Railways of violating tender rules when they directly awarded China Road and Bridge Corporation the tender. In fact, the union and 3 others filed a suit in court on Wednesday seeking to halt the construction. But today, Justice George Odunga declined to give the orders, ruling that the applicants had not clearly demonstrated whether the construction had begun or not. None other than Mombasa Women Rep Mishi Mboko chided the aggrieved MPs, saying the issues they raised had been discussed in Parliament.
Kwa hivyo tukiwa viongozi, wakati tuko bunge lile, tuwe tunatafuta information, tunakuja kwenye vikao, tunajua kunaendelea nini, ndio tusiwe na conflicting information about development.
Notably, the Chinese ambassador himself defended the credentials of China construction and gave strong assurances in his speech.
An empty pot makes the loudest noises. I can assure you that China Road and Bridge Corporation will complete the project on time and by high standard.
However, it was Senator Hassan Omar who ticked off the president when he brought up the suggestion that Tanzania has been sidelined from recent EAC projects.
That by any design, we are trying to isolate our friends in Tanzania. Mr. President, I humbly appeal to you that let's carry our brothers on board.
Mambo ya upuzi mimi sana sitaki kuyaongea. Huu ni mwanzo na kila kitu lazima kiwe na mwanzo. Hii mambo ya kusema tukianza kazi ati sasa huyu ameanza kusema fulani amewachwa fulani. Hiyo siasa ya pesa nani jamani tuache. Inasaidia nani? Inasaidia nani wenzangu?
A visibly irritated Uhuru lashed out at persons he accused of trying to undermine the EAC and pointed out that other projects to link up Tanzania were already in the pipeline, including the Voi Mwatate road construction set to be commissioned next month.
Na wale ambaye hawafurahishwi na hawa maneno, tafadhali tafuta kitu ingine. Just don't incite our people. Don't. Just leave it.
It's been hailed as a project that will transform the course of development not just in Kenya but Eastern Africa. And in spite of the lingering questions, construction looks set to begin right on schedule, with the president expecting to flag off the first train to Kitili by the end of December 2018. Ferdinand Mundi, KTN, Mombasa.
The Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero has threatened to auction Broadcasting House, the home of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, KBC.
Of course, this is after KBC failed to pay 900 million in land rates.
The home of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and 9 other buildings risk being auctioned. This comes just a day after the amnesty period granted by the Nairobi County expires. The 85-year-old state-run corporation has a 900 million shilling debt in unpaid land rates. Other organizations which have defaulted land rate payment include the Kenya Airports Authority, which owes the county 153 million shillings, and the Kenya Revenue Authority, which owes 146 million shillings. Kenya Sports Stadia owes the council 252 million shillings, while the Pensions Fund is yet to pay 302 million shillings.
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation owes us 900 million shillings.
the KBC site. Rates have not been paid for a long time, so that's one of the ones that we are going, we will sell.
The unpaid land rates amount to 47 billion shillings, which the governor says they inherited from the Nairobi City Council. So far, only 500 million shillings has been collected in the one-month campaign, which had a target of collecting at least 15 billion shillings.
The interests have been running at probably twice the amount of rates. That is, out of the 47 billion, interest was 30 billion.
The governor reiterated that the amnesty period will not be extended after the next 24 hours. Legal action, which meant auctioning, will be taken next week against everyone who has defaulted in order to recover the money. Meanwhile, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair Mumo Matemu toured Kisumu to examine strategies to contain corruption. He says that corruption has been taken to the grassroots.
Would go to some places and find very good records about corruption risk assessment. Reports upon reports, very well kept. But you find, again, corruption abounds in the same institution.
Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
And members of the National Assembly allied to the Jubilee Coalition have supported a bill that seeks to allow them to change the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. However, CORD MPs have rejected the proposed amendments. KTN's Wilson Buru has the details from Parliament.
The fate of the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report will now most likely be at the mercy of the members of Parliament. The legislators assumed the power to alter the report during the second reading debate of the TJRC Amendment Bill. The bill seeks to amend the TJRC Act of 2008, which would essentially clear the way for MPs to have an input on the final report.
Without this bill, then nobody, including this House, has an opportunity to even to do a comma. You cannot even change a comma. This bill is telling you, if you feel even there was a topographical error in that report, that voluminous report, then you can only do it if you adopt and support this bill.
We proposed as a committee, Mr. Speaker, that our consideration of this report should not allow the National Assembly to alter the content, the form, or the substance of the report. So that we do not use the liberty to debate to take over the work of the Commission and begin rewriting the report.
The TJRC has maintained that Parliament's role should be limited to ensuring that the report is fully implemented. These sentiments are shared by a section of the legislators who feel that Parliament may end up eroding it.
In Kenya, right from independence, we have a way and a tendency of sweeping things under the carpet and wishing them away and hoping that they will never affect us. If we are not careful as a country, we will go worse than the Egyptian way, Mr. Speaker. Let us be bold, let us be brave, let us deal with those historical issues once and for all.
President Uhuru Kenyatta formally received the TJRC report in June. It recommends prosecution of senior government officials and politicians for their involvement in the 2007 post-election violence, among other historical injustices. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto are among those who have been adversely mentioned in the TJRC report that Parliament now seeks to have the right to make amendments to. The bill is now set to go to the committee stage before it is taken back to Parliament for debate. Wilson Buru, KTN, Nairobi.
Time for business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Kenya's quest for a more efficient, reliable railway line has taken off with the commissioning of the standard gauge railway line. The project, President Uhuru Kenyatta says, will define his legacy. KTN's Adelaide Chengole with the details.
The 1,250-kilometer standard gauge railway line has been a topic of discussion in the last 2 weeks, and today it came to be. Running through Nairobi, Kisumu, and finally ending up at the Malaba border post, the railway line is expected to cement Kenya's position as a gateway to regional business.
Transport costs in the region are expected to reduce by more than 60%. This in turn will spur expanded production and reduce the cost of goods and services.
Ultimately, the railway line is expected to connect Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda with the possibility of a route to South Sudan. The construction work in Kenya is expected to be in 2 phases, the first being the 607-kilometer line between Nairobi and Mombasa. This is scheduled for completion by 2017. The remaining phase extending to Malaba and to other countries should be done by 2018.
Projects like this should have bipartisan, undivided, unfettered support of all leaders.
Before this day, controversy had surrounded the project, with a section of members of the National Assembly raising concerns over the single sourcing of the tender to the China Road and Bridge Corporation to construct the new line. The matter also found its way to the courts, but was dismissed.
There is nothing like government to government in procurement rules. You have to follow the due procedure of tendering.
This is not a Mombasa project. This is not a Kenyan project. This is not an East African project. This is an African project.
Apart from its efficiency in cargo and passenger haulage, the new line is expected to complement the existing meter gauge railway and road transport in cargo movement from the port of Mombasa. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Thanks, Adelaide. Now, for years, the aviation industry in Africa has been treated as a luxury. This has seen many countries ignore the sector, but now industry players are demanding to be viewed as a critical component of the growing economy in Africa. Joseph Bonyo reports.
The aviation industry in Africa has witnessed remarkable growth over the last 50 years. This has seen a number of players based in the continent flex muscles in an industry that is largely controlled by carriers from America, Europe, and lately Middle East. But in an effort to grow their market shares, the carriers are now demanding more from the African governments.
There is criticism of African governments, but realize where the governments have come from. They're very young governments. The African countries got independence only the other day. We're looking at European countries that started 700 or so years ago.
Among the factors that currently hinder the African airlines from achieving their full potential is the high cost structures that has made doing business very expensive. Additionally, inadequate infrastructure at a number of airports has also held back the growth in an industry poised to gain from the growth of economies in the continent.
The conversation has to take place at government level. Now, it's our responsibility to appraise the politicians in our respective countries about the challenges that face the airline industry.
But while the continent's carriers have valid reasons on what is holding back growth of the sector, internal competition is also a very key contributor to their snail pace. A case in point has been the slow implementation of the Yamoussoukro decision, which advocates for open skies in the continent.
It's frustrating because in my 11 years in the industry, we've been talking about it every year, and once we finish the meeting, nothing else, nobody talks about it. So we don't take ownership of it, and you can't go on talking about the same thing forever.
But given the growing competition globally and the increased presence of non-African airlines, especially the Middle East carriers in the continent, the industry is promising to forge ahead in unison. At the just concluded African Airlines Association 45th General Assembly meeting in Diani, Kwale County, players agreed to address the challenges with their respective presidents.
On governments to assist in terms of reducing industry costs, particularly the extremely high costs in Africa in areas such as passenger charges, fuel charges, taxes and fees.
With these commitments, the African aviation industry hopes to turn the tides and compete favorably not only in Africa but the global airspace. Joseph Bonyo, KTN Business.
Cyber security measures are being drafted to curb cybercrime in Kenya and parts of Africa. This and more in our corporate briefs. Microsoft Kenya and the Copyright Board have partnered to fight software piracy in the country. Microsoft has offered grace period of up to January 15, 2014 to those using unlicensed software to acquire genuine products, after which the two organizations will conduct a joint raid and arrest organizations pirating software. A study by International Data Corporation indicates that a third of all PC software globally operates on pirated platforms. Kenya has started the process of developing a national cybersecurity management framework whose implementation is geared towards building confidence and boosting security in the use of ICT services. During the second East Africa IT and Cybersecurity Convention in Nairobi, website defacement, impersonation, cyberbullying, copyright infringement, and mobile transfer fraud were identified among top cyber crimes. And Apollo Investment Limited has announced the repositioning of its life business to leverage on APA Insurance regional strength to build on Apollo's heritage. Apollo Life will now be called APA Life, and its new brand identity will be similar to the Apollo Group's insurance arm across the region. Under the new brand, the company is to launch additional products into the market.
And moving on, tens of hundreds of Kenyan soccer lovers thronged Kenyatta International Conference Center to be part of the historic World Cup trophy tour. Though no one was allowed to touch the prized trophy, many left with memories of being the few to see the trophy at close proximity. Nicholas Mudimba witnessed all that and brings the details.
One could have mistaken to believe that Thursday was a public holiday in Kenya, judging by the number of people who turned up at the Kenyatta International Conference Center to see the trophy that 32 countries will be fighting for at the FIFA World Cup in Brazil next year. Soccer lovers from all walks of life made sure that the day did not go down before they documented the events around the trophy's world tour. Only 3 seconds was allowed for each member of the public to take record of the memorable occasion. The trophy was enclosed in a bulletproof glass. Kids were also given a chance to feel the new FIFA 14 PlayStation, which for sure had a different experience from the rest.
Exciting, and it's a very good feeling. Yeah, especially a lot of me at home. The people didn't know about this. Sana.
Nataka tu kuiona tu, tunaionanga tu kwa TV hivi. Sasa niko na hope hata mimi siku moja nione.
From Kenya, the trophy heads to Tanzania, then concludes its African tour in South Africa. Over 10,000 fans have availed themselves to witness the biggest cup in the world, the biggest trophy the world can offer as far as soccer is concerned. But next in Brazil, 32 teams will square it out for this one trophy. Reporting for KTN here in Nairobi, I am Nicholas Mudimba.
Lucky soccer fans right there. And moving on, we are more enlightened and educated. That is the verdict by a cross-section of Kenyan athletes after the close of the second Athletics Kenyan seminar in Eldoret. The aim of the symposium was to sensitize athletes on various subjects, among them the use of banned substances.
We have to invest now. Of course, these things, you know, we may have things and then lost it. So it's good for us to have investment.
Tulionywa ama tulifunzwa ya kwamba tusitumie mambo za madawa za kulevya ama za kusisimua misuli, maana hiyo inaleta hatari kwa miili zetu.
Sometimes you get maybe bulk money, and maybe sometimes you get confused because many, so you get for now I think we are going to get more personal advisors as in business and maybe other things.
And well, that does it for tonight's edition of KTN Sports Today. I'm Lynn Washira. Do have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. But remember, tomorrow, the Kenya national sevens team will be taking on Portugal in their first group match in Dubai. That is for the Dubai leg of the IRB 7 series.
Well, before we go, let's look at our big question tonight. We had asked you, will the SRC ever resolve its salary war with the MCAs? Let's see how some of you have polled. 94% of you say no, 6% of you say yes.
Let's take a look at some of your comments, what you have said concerning that particular question. And Omwalo says the county representatives have nothing to show for poor Kenyans. SRC shouldn't give in for more demands.
Moses Singh says no, I don't think so. The government is broke. Recruitment was stopped, so there is no cash.
Impunity and greed will not let the MCAs negotiate. SRC has a mandate and should be free to exercise the same. That is Kimeu Musyoka.
information right at your fingertips. Dial *551#. Kenya Power.
Well, many thanks for joining us all this week on your most qualified news bulletin, KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili. Have a wonderful night.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Sleep well. I'm Lindah Oguttu.